Hey, it's Mirella Manelli with Kenra Professional, and today I'm gonna show you how to add in depth with lowlights, and this is the perfect technique for any client who's looking to transition their summer hair into a fall look. Now let's go ahead and get started. Now before we get started, I wanted to walk you through a little bit of my model's hair history. Now the last time she got her hair done was about 7 months ago, and she's been loving the ocean life right now. We can see a lot of fading brightness and a little bit of brassy tones kind of showing through. And we really want to transition her into fall by adding in some depth and dimension with some low lights. But we don't really want to forget this face frame here. So what we're gonna do is add in a few blended highlights right here around the face, just keeping it really subtle, low maintenance. And then we're gonna add in those dimensional lowlights to help break up a lot of this blonde kind of going on. But we're really loving how we got this dark into light going on, but we just want to tone it down a little bit. So after we do the lowlights, we'll do an overall glaze and hopefully richen her up, ready for fall. So you can see my model's natural part is pretty much down the center, so this is gonna be a very centralized placement. Now, if your client has a side part, all you're gonna do is shift this placement to the center of their side part. So overall, our placement is gonna be more focused on the sides. We're gonna do a lot of horizontals here, but I really just wanna focus on isolating out her face frame first. And what I like to do is just comb this down and see where it naturally just kind of parts on its own. And a great indicator for that is just grabbing this hair and then pinching it, and you'll see a natural kind of separation happening for you. This is telling you where the hair naturally wants to live, and this is gonna be her face frame here. So I'm gonna follow that line all the way down. And this is where we're gonna add in that highlight. Now, since this is a pretty wide section, I usually separate out where that temple area is at, so kind of the arch of the eyebrow. And I'm actually gonna make this into a separate section. Just got a pretty straight front hairline there. And I'm gonna split this section in half. And then just using my highlighting comb, I really like this one just because it has wider teeth. We're gonna have a little bit more dimension going on. So I'm gonna insert my comb and separate that. And just add a little slight tease here. For this project, I'm using Kenra Professional Blue Powder Lightener at a 1:2 mixing ratio. Now, the reason why I decided to use 20 volume is because she does have pretty dark hair, and I wanted the timing to match up with the demi-permanent we were gonna be putting in the interior. And I think this is gonna give us a really great lift. You can see I'm just focusing on the areas where it's really dark, painting on the lightener in those areas, and then leaving those ends out, and we're just really looking for a matched lift. Now, because we have this kind of rooted here, and I wanna make sure I'm not touching any lightener up here, and we do have these ends kind of hanging out, I'm just gonna go ahead and flat wrap this. It's gonna make it so much easier, especially if I do need to check on it and maybe reapply if necessary, or do some more further blending. It just gives me a little bit more control this way. And I'm gonna do the same exact thing to this next section. So a little trick when doing this application for something rooted is you wanna make sure you're applying enough bleach lightener right onto that mid zone. You just kind of want the hair to stick to the foil. And then with some quick motions, stroking upwards, this is how you're gonna get that blend. And because she has those lightened pieces, we're gonna kind of do the same thing to the bottom part, just bringing that lightener down just enough so we can focus on just lightening this to match these ends. And I'm gonna do the same exact thing to the other side. So now that I have the sides done, I'm gonna go ahead and take care of this middle zone here. And I'm also gonna separate this and just split it in half. And essentially I'm just marrying these two sections together. I'm gonna go ahead and insert my comb and separate those out. And I'm gonna do the same thing to the next section here. Now that this is all done, we're gonna go ahead and flip this up. Just gently, you don't wanna really create too much of a crease. but this will make it a little bit more comfortable for your client while they're processing behind the chair. Now that I have her face frame complete, we're gonna let the bleach do its thing, go ahead and process. I'm now gonna focus on putting in the Lowlights, but what we're gonna do, because she has this dark into light thing going on, we're gonna be mixing up 2 different demi-permanent formulas of 5B, and we're gonna melt that into 7B, because I really don't want to take away too much of the lightness that she has going on the bottom. I just want to add that nice dimension without making it too dark. Now before we get started with her lowlights, I wanted to kind of walk you through what's going on in the back. I am loving the placement of her highlights, so I'm definitely not going to be touching that whatsoever. However, in the front she has lots of blonding kind of going on, and this is where all that brassiness is kind of hanging out. So when I look at her hair and I bring that forward, this is exactly what I want to break up. So we're gonna focus on the lowlights just hanging out in a horizontal placement right along the sides. Now to further separate the front from the back, I'm gonna go from the apex here and just do a pretty deep zigzag parting. This is just gonna help diffuse that line between the front and the back. And once I've separated that, I'm just gonna take a horizontal section. These are about 2 fingers width apart. And I'm gonna take this entire section that I had separated here. So you can see how much blonde we have going on, and this is exactly what we wanna break up. I really like how it's grown out. I think it looks really beautiful, but I just wanna break it up just a little bit. So the best way to do that is to grab this entire section. And again, we're gonna use this comb here, and we're gonna create that dimension with our comb. So now we're just gonna be left with just a little bit of that highlight, but we're also gonna darken this up just a little bit. I'm also gonna tease this a little bit. I wanna get rid of some of this hair just to soften the line up. What I'm gonna do first is add in the 5B in Demi. Now 5B is pretty much matching what her natural base is, but I'm just gonna drag it down just a little bit, and then we're gonna blend that right into 7B, just so that way we don't make it so dark down here. I really do love the dimension, and I think the 7B would be perfect for toning down a lot of these level 7 pieces that we have going on. And then it might leave those lighter pieces slightly lighter as well. If the hair is really long, this is a really hot tip here, but you can just add in your next foil and lay that right on down. The product is gonna make this foil stick for you. It's not gonna go anywhere. And then I'm just gonna drag that 7B right on top of that 5B. And what that does is it blends it from 5 to 6 and to 7. And we're just gonna drag this down. So I have 5B blending into that 7B, creating our 6B right in here, and then just 7B towards that ends. So if you wanna know how to wrap this up too, if you're creating a long foil like this, what I like to do is just fold this up just on the ends here, okay? As long as it's okay that this is touching this zone, I think we're good. So I'm gonna just barely flip this up, and then I'm gonna take another foil and put that right on top. And then just close it right on up. Now I'm gonna move on again about that 2 fingers width. Now, if your client has really high density, really thick hair, you might wanna take some smaller sections. My model today has medium to high density. I would say she has medium density, but more of a finer texture of hair. So I am able to take a little bit of a wider section to color. But just kind of keep that in mind. The coarser the hair, the thicker the hair, the smaller the sections you'll want to take with this technique. Now this formula is mixed up at a 1:2 mixing ratio, and the beauty of Kenra Demis is you have the ability to control how much saturation you want out of your Demi-permanents. So if I wanted maximum saturation, you definitely could mix this up, adding 1 to 1. But because we're really going for dimension here, I don't want maximum saturation. I still want that nice medium deposit. 1 to 2 is perfect. So essentially we're just gonna be adding in 4 foils to each side. But for me, the beauty of using this comb is I'm taking hair from this entire section. So that's why it's grabbing hair and little tiny highlights from both sides. And this is why we get the maximum amount of dimension, and you really can't tell where those highlights are coming from. Now, since we're closer towards the top and I'm taking a look at her placement, I'm actually loving how light this is. It's not super light. This is kind of like what we're going for, just a little bit softer. I like this highlight. So basically what I'm gonna do, instead of adding the 5B, I'm just gonna focus on the 7B for this particular piece, just because I wanna enhance what we have going on right here. So feel free to customize this formula, the technique for your client and their needs. And now we're gonna do the same thing to the other side. Now that I'm all done putting in her highlights and lowlights, I wanted to walk you through this little section that I have left right on top. I'm actually gonna leave it out. We're not gonna put anything in it. And this just completes like a little sliver from each side. So this is gonna veil over the entire look. And this way, we can't really tell exactly where these lowlights and also her highlights are kind of coming from. It's just gonna veil over the entire look. And overall, I'm really loving this tone that she has. It's a very soft, subtle dimension, very much like what we're trying to recreate. And I think these lowlights are gonna do a beautiful job of adding that depth and dimension while still maintaining the subtle brightness that we're loving from how she first started. Now, while she's processing, I wanted to show you this little hack and prep you for what our goal for lift is. Now, what I see here on her ends that we're trying to match up with this highlight here is a level 8. Now you can see that she is a level 8, but if you ever have a hard time figuring out what that is against the level finder, what you can do is flip your phone to a black and white setting and hold up the level finder to it. And what this will tell you is exactly the level of lift you have, and really not so much focused on the tone. Now that it's been 20 minutes, I'm gonna apply her final toner on freshly shampooed hair. I mixed up GV Rapid Toner at a 1 to 2 mixing ratio with 9 volume developer and did a global application from roots to ends and let that sit on for just 5 minutes. Now that it's been 5 minutes, I'm doing one final rinse and then layering in the Kenra Platinum Luxe Shine Mask. I love this mask because it's gonna provide me with instant hydration and tons of shine, and I'm gonna let this sit in for just 5 minutes. And now we're ready to do her final style. And here's a final result of my technique on how to add in depth with lowlights. And just to give you a little recap, I added minimal foils using blue powder lightener right here on the face frame, and then adding in some lowlights, color melting from 5B into that 7B, and we got this really rich, beautiful depth. And then for her final glaze, we used GV Rapid Toner. You can really see how much shine and control we got from that tone. So I really hoped you enjoyed this hair tutorial, and if you did, please give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe. Be sure to check out the other hair color tutorials right here on the Kenra Professional YouTube channel, and I will see you in the next video.